I'm excited. Today we get to sit down with a man who embodies the American dream. He went from collecting soda bottles as a kid and trading it in for lunch money and getting nothing more than a high school education to this. I hope that going into 2022, this video inspires you to recognize that you can dream big and that your dreams are achievable. I'm sitting here in Florida with a good friend and mentor, Dick Alderson, and today we have the privilege of sitting down and talking with him about his journey in sales and as a CEO. We're going to learn about how to master the art of setting and achieving goals and how to be successful in sales and as an entrepreneur. Now guys, I'm going to put timestamps according to the different themes of the conversation so it's easy for you to navigate to the parts you want to check out, and make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more uplifting content around success in business and in life. Dick, thanks so much for joining me. How's it going?
Oh, it's going great, and thank you for all the compliments.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So could we start out by talking a little bit about your journey and your career and some of your highlight moments in sales and as a CEO?
Yeah, I guess, Chris, the overall is I live the American dream. Totally amazing. You know, when I was 8, 10 years old, I used to walk to school with a burlap sack picking up pop bottles to pay for my lunch.
Wow.
That's true. We used to get 2 cents a bottle. I cashed them in a filling station. That was my lunch money. So, to be able to be retired early and kind of live here,
Yeah,
pretty special, So I thank everything for the Constitution and being born in America. I'm so lucky.
So what were some of your proudest accomplishments in sales? And didn't you go into sales leadership and then as a CEO?
I did. I was always a pretty good salesman because you can't do anything unless you can get somebody else to buy something. That's where the money comes from.
Yeah.
But, I think the secret to sales, and most salespeople absolutely just bypass this. If you don't get some education, I went and I had 2 weeks of video training in sales, role playing, learning what the sales structure is all about, and then I had another week, and then I read books, and it becomes a way of life. And when you accomplish that, when you learn how to sell something, I don't care what it is, you can sell anything. Now, what's important is you sell something you believe in, okay, and not take advantage of people. The most important thing in sales is to find out what the prospect wants, what the hot buttons are, what the objectives are, and then fulfill those. And if you can make him happy with the product you've got, it's a win-win, and that's what we look for.
So what I'm hearing is you need to believe in your product, you need to educate yourself and even rehearse and role play, and you have to look for the win-win.
Absolutely.
Super insightful, and one thing I wanted to talk about is the theme of goal setting, because I know you were a master goal setter and achiever, and that's helped you be successul. Didn't you have a fateful day where you met someone?
It was unbelievable, Chris. Yeah. Early on I believed in setting some goals, but every time I set goals, I just blew through them.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, what's the point of setting a goal? Because, I just blew through them, and one night in Chicago, I'll never forget, I met a guy that was an instructor. He was there in Chicago to give a class the next day, and his topic was goal setting. And I got the whole talk that night at the bar. And he went through all the areas, choose a goal, got to have measurable results, et cetera, et cetera. And you've all heard those talks. Everybody's been to a goal-setting class or approached it somewhere. But when we ended the night and had our final drink, he said, "Do me a favor." And I said, "Sure, what's that?" He says, "It's an hour flight back to Cincinnati, right?" I said, "Yep." He said, "When you get on the plane, take out a piece of paper and write down your goals. Write down your short-term goals, 1 year, your medium-term goals, 3 years to 5 years, and 5 to 10 year goals and lifetime goals. And just take out a piece of paper, dream, just put anything you want on that paper, and carry that paper with you, and look at it periodically, and work toward those goals. I said, okay, I'll do that. Just thinking it's a joke.
Yeah.
And you know what? I put that piece of paper in my wallet, and the goals I wrote down, I mean, it was easy to write down the short terms. I knew I worked for another company at that time. I knew kind of where I wanted to go with that. But then when I got to the 3-year goals, I thought, well, geez, you know, do I still want to be working for somebody else?
Yeah.
I never once in my lifetime thought about starting my own business. But I put on that piece of paper, start my own business by the time I was 30. I don't know where that came from. I wrote it down. And you know what? I resigned from that job on March 15th. I turned 30 on March 11th.
Holy cow.
It was unbelievable. It just happened. But every year I looked at that, and as I got toward my 10-year long-term goals, I said I don't want to be financially independent when I was 40. Well, my God, when I was 35, I kind of looked at where I was. I looked at my goals. I said, shit, I better work a little harder.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it really worked. I looked at those goals until that piece of paper wore out. Absolutely
Holy
disintegrated. Yeah.
So you wrote on a piece of paper that you carried with you in your wallet?
Yep.
So that's so insightful. I imagine people could also write on a whiteboard that they keep in their room, or but you're saying just keep track.
Something you'd be able to look at every so often. You know, I made it a point to look at it more than once a year, but I guarantee you on January the 1st every year, I looked at that piece of paper and decided what I had to do this coming year, you know? Yes.
And so it sounds like there were times, like when you were 35, where you looked and said, I'm not on track, because you wanted to be financially free. And so that was really helpful too, right?
Oh,
to
absolutely. It got me
into
back
gear.
on track, you know? Yeah, I'm doing okay, but I'm not going to make my goal if I don't get, really kick it in gear, you know? So, I tell you, I use goals for other things too, Chris. When we had our business, okay, I knew what the goal was, but my employees didn't necessarily know the goals. So, I mean, we talked about them, but it wasn't like on the forefront of their mind. So we ended up creating what I called a goal board. And we put it right in front of the sales office where every salesman had to look at it more than once a day.
Wow.
And what this board was, we projected every year, budgeted what our sales are going to be, the whole works. So we knew every month what we were supposed to sell if we're going to meet our goal for the year. And that's important to break down those goals, in short periods of time. So we broke it down per day.
Per day, wow.
And we broke it down, and there was a line on this side that said, okay, if we want to sell, 500,000 this month, we have to do so much a day. So we plotted out, and there was a line that went up here. And and we plotted every day, at the end of the day, how much we had sold. And if we were not above the line, the guys knew they better come in early the next morning and get a good start on the day so we get back above the line. So I mean, I never had to say a word to these guys. I mean, we all bought into the goal. We all said we're going to make it. And every month when we made it, we had a little bonus.
I love that. So you got everyone bought in, and it sounds like you transitioned obviously from an individual contributor to a leader. And so the question is, how do you, as a leader, get people bought into a common goal? Like, how do you inspire them into action?
Well, I think it's just, you've heard this whole thing, the speed of the boss, the speed of the crew. I did everything the salespeople did, everything the office people did. I knew every job in the company, and I wasn't afraid to get in and do it. Work side by side, and I think, once they realize that we're all working for the same thing, and I'm willing to do anything they're going to do, I think it makes it easy.
And one thing that stood out to me is you mentioned daily accountability to goals, like looking every day and having a visual representation.
Boom, every day.
That's something that I could say I have not practiced, and I'm in a sales job where I have specific goals, and it sounds like myself and the audience out there, we could begin with the end in mind, set goals, and reverse engineer it back so we know not just monthly but daily what we need to do.
The thing of it is, Chris, You know, if you got a monthly goal and you think, oh, I'm going to pull this together the last week of the month, you might be so far behind by the last week of the month you can't catch up. And so then you get frustrated, you get down, you get depressed. You know, and being sales is tough. You know, you've got to have a lot of perseverance.
Yeah.
You know, because you're going to get told no more times than you get told yes.
Yeah.
So, you know, you got to be ready every day, and you can't wait till last week to get it done because it's probably not going to happen.
Oh man, so are there any other insights you'd offer around the mindset to be successful in sales? You mentioned perseverance, being able to deal with rejection, setting goals. Is there any other special sauce that you think is important?
Well, I think, you know, go back to what I said to start with. Read the sales books, learn the sales presentation, role play. I used to role play with our guys all the time.
Really? What did that look like? Because that's something I want to do more with my sales team. So could you give an example of what that looked like?
We just sit down and, you know, I say, okay, you're XYZ customer and I'm the salesman, or vice versa.
Yeah.
And we just, okay, here's what we got to sell today. So, you know, make your pitch, you know. So we sit there, you know, a lot of times we did it on camera.
On camera?
On camera.
Wow.
So that, you know, we'd play it back and say, well, maybe this is what you should have done instead of what you did do. You know, so that's what you learn. And being on camera, I don't like it right now, by the way.
Yeah, it can be awkward, right? Like,
it is awkward.
Me, it is.
I'll never forget the first time I was on camera. I was in a sales training school, and I crossed my legs, and I had short socks on.
And, with the and were you dressed up in a suit?
There was a big gap from my sock up to my pant leg.
Yes.
And I'm going to tell you what, I wore knee-high socks from that day on because that's what other people see. And as a salesman, that's important. That impression is very important.
Yeah, wouldn't you say that the reality in life is we do have to manage perceptions? Some people might say, oh, I can just be whoever I want to be, and that's good. You want to be authentic and find that balance, but don't you have to like manage how you're presenting yourself, how you speak, and the little details matter, right?
I totally believe that you can achieve any way you want to. It's going to be a lot harder if you don't worry about that perception. I've had salesmen work for me that I would have swore could never make it.
Yeah.
But because of their persistence and their just continued hard work, they were able to achieve. It'd have been a lot easier if they did some other things.
Yeah, you know, that is a way we could make life a little easier because there are certain just principles and things that work in reality. But what you're saying, though, is you can still find a way. If you're really that quirky someone who, you know, you've got to express yourself and you're a certain way. If you're persistent, you still can be successful. It just might be a little harder.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Got it. Now, I have a question. Going from an individual contributor role as an individual salesperson to moving into leadership and eventually moving into a CEO position, what was the transition like going into becoming a leader?
Well, you know, I think education is part of it. All of a sudden, instead of just being a salesman and, you know, cost and sales price, you got to deal with all the other issues, okay? You have a budget, you got to, you know, performance, and you got to plan ahead. Those were things I had to learn. I had to learn accounting, debits and credits.
Yeah.
You know, so I had to go back and get some schooling, you know, along the way at night school, and learn some things I didn't know. You know.
Did you get an MBA, or you're saying night school, was it like what type of program?
I just took courses I needed at the time. I got a high school diploma, and that's about it, Chris.
You got a high school diploma,
I
and that's
did.
it? What an inspiration, you know, for the people out there that might say, oh, I don't have a college degree, I don't have a fancy MBA. It proves that you can, you know, you don't need that, right?
Hey, yeah, I recommend everybody get as much education as they can. I was never one to be able to sit in a classroom and enjoy that. So I took classes I wanted to take that was going to help me in my career. But I encourage education. I don't think it's a bad thing. It's a good thing, you know. But is it necessary? A certain amount of it is.
Let's recognize it's a huge expense, and it very well could be worth it.
Yeah.
But also, you know, let's say a lawyer spends so much on a degree, and then with their new job, they have to pay it off. So I feel like, and tell me your thoughts, if you can learn through the School of Hard Knocks and take the right courses where appropriate, you probably save some money and then,
I missed a lot of fun in college too, probably.
that's a good point.
But well, I've had a pretty good time
Yeah.
throughout my life.
What, you've traveled the world in business, and
Yep.
what is, I think we were talking about earlier, one of your favorite countries, or do you have any good travel stories or
Well,
experiences?
well, you don't have enough time on this video. I used to spend 10% of my time in the Far East. Hong Kong is my favorite city in the world.
Really?
It was until, China just took it over, and they lose their freedoms. Hong Kong was the most enterprising, entrepreneurial place I've ever seen in my life. You couldn't meet anybody anywhere that didn't want to try to sell you something, make something for you, do something for you, and earn $1. I mean, it was so exciting. It really and truly was. And I was back in the late 70s, 80s,
Yeah.
early 90s, yeah. And it was just fun being there.
Absolutely. I'd love to go to, Tokyo, and, the company I work for right now is a Korean company. Didn't you say you were out in Korea? Like, what was that?
Seoul, Korea, Korea in general, I mean, I tell you that I've never met more traditional people. These people are very much, they're beautiful people. I mean, and they're very, very clean. I mean, the streets, you could eat off the sidewalks. I mean,
That's nice.
yeah, they're just, and they have their traditions. I mean, they have all these traditions that they live by. I mean, it's just amazing. It's like, if you go and you meet a new guy and you offer him a cigarette, if he doesn't smoke that cigarette, that's an insult. So it's absolutely an insult. So even for a non-smoker, you offer them a cigarette, they're going to smoke it. And it's amazing.
That's really interesting. Now, tying it back to business, I've just got a couple more questions before we wrap up. Are you a believer when it comes to sales and business in being a relationship person, long-term relationship person, as opposed to, maybe they're not contradictory, but someone who challenges with insights? Because nowadays I hear a lot about the challenger methodology. It's a new sales methodology: teach, tailor, and take control. But do you have any thoughts on how you approach sales, whether it's how important are relationships versus creating constructive tension and challenging?
Well, I'm old school, Chris, because I am old. and yeah, to me, it's all relationships. Yeah. I mean, there's a place for progress, there's a place for new ways to do things, but there's a certain amount of us that are always going to be relationship based, and those are what makes life important for me. When you can help a friend and you do things for friends, and they appreciate it, that's a special thing. And it goes beyond buying and selling. You're helping the humankind and helping your friend, and it's good.
I know you mentioned the theme of win-win, and
it's always
we
win-win.
go further together. You're helping people, and how have you been able to use your success in business to give more to people and causes?
Oh my gosh, we're so very fortunate. I think that most successful business people are really philanthropic. And my wife, fortunately, she taught school for 5 years.
Yeah.
She worked. But after that, we had our first child. Really didn't want her to go back to work, and she wanted to raise her family, but she worked harder than I did. She raised a family. She coached cheerleading at our local school for 13 years. And I can't tell you all the volunteer jobs she did. And then when the girls were in high school, she actually took a job. I can't tell you how low the salary was. It was a volunteer job that she got paid a little bit for, but it was full time. And she was events coordinator for Catholic High School. And she ran, and we started out, I think it was $150,000 a year they were generating a year. And it was over $400,000 when we left, when she finished. I mean, she just generated a lot of money for them. And after that, she decided, we didn't have a community foundation in our community. We have a community about 40 to 60,000 people, and started a community foundation. And she built
amazing.
that. She's since moved on from there, but that's got about, $13, $15 million in assets now. So it's helping the community in a lot of different ways. And one of the things she came across when she was involved with that project, there was no Boys and Girls Club, no place for kids to go after school, the underprivileged. We have 20% of our kids in our community are free and reduced lunch kids.
Wow.
And they need help. And so she started Boys and Girls Club. It's built a $7 million facility for them. I mean, it is nothing but first class.
Wow.
And she's still very involved in that. And so we've been able to give back a lot of different ways. I mean, you should interview my wife. The only reason she writes checks is donate money. She's really good at giving it away.
Unbelievable. Yeah, we have to interview your wife, Patty, as well. And you two are a power couple. And my takeaway is, as you succeed in business, yes, you have money to give, but you also have skills to give. You can apply your sales and business skills to help promote great ideas and causes. So thank you for what you do, you and your wife. You're a huge contribution, and as a mentor to people like me as well. And I'm just really grateful to have the chance to learn from you and share this with more people, your insights and your wisdom around business. And so I wanted to wrap up with a final question. There's a million questions that I could ask you, but wrap up with this. What's your just deeper level advice to people out there, maybe young professionals in their 20s coming out of college, young professionals, on how they can find fulfillment in life and be more successful? And ultimately, I want to throw financial freedom in there. Not that that's a true measure of success, but how they could be more successful and fulfilled in life.
Wow.
Profound question.
That's a tough question, Chris. There's so many different answers, but I think you have to have a purpose. Number one, I think you have to define that purpose in basically in goal setting. Set your goals, make sure they're measurable, and make sure you track them. And when you do that, you won't believe the satisfaction and gratitude that you get from achieving goals, okay, and achieving the purposes you're out there to do. So I mean, and you can dream big.
Yeah.
Dream big. The sky's the limit. I mean, remember, I was picking up pop bottles to pay my lunch money. I mean, come on.
Wow. Well, great advice.
So go for it. I'd say go for it.
I gave you a tough question. I threw it up, and you slam dunked it home. So thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you.
Good to see you.
All right.
Yeah.
And guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you found this entertaining and informative, which I'm sure you did, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more positive content. We got to interview Dick's wife at some point too, so keep an eye out for that. Love you all and all the best.